We're going to start the toe, and first we're going to decrease our number of rows by lifting needles out of work, and then we're going to increase again until we're basically back to where we started right here. You'll notice my project yarn is here, attached at 3 o'clock, right over the main mark. Make sure it's threaded back through your yarn feeder. And now we're going to crank. When half the needles are out of work, you know that you're going in the correct direction when you are moving the needle where the yarn is attached back towards 12 o'clock. And you're going to need to pull out your yarn as you do that to pull back the slack. Again, you don't want it too tight, moderate tension. If in doubt, loose tension is better. But here we're going to start. We're just going to crank counterclockwise, 1 row. Stop though and check every time that first needle is catching the yarn. If you're going to have problems, it's likely going to be on the first needle in a row or the last needle in a row. And those are the hardest stitches to fix if one of them drops. So go as slowly as you need to make sure that first needle always knits. Again, very loose tension all the way around. And then also make sure, as I mentioned, that last needle always knits. Next, we're going to wrap the first needle at 9 o'clock. To wrap the needle, you take the yarn back behind the needle and then in front again, back toward the yarn feeder. So that now is 1 wrapped needle. After wrapping this needle, we're now going to go clockwise. Again, remember to pull the slack out of the yarn gently. And again, watch very closely to make sure that first needle that's back in work, the first non-lifted needle, catches and knits. And again, you can go as slowly as you need to watch and make sure every needle is knitting. Now we're going to wrap the first needle on the 3 o'clock side and crank counterclockwise. We need to add our heel forks because this section we're going to keep knitting back and forth on this side, and if we don't have some extra weight, we're going to start to lose stitches. They aren't going to knit properly. You need the weight in order to help form the stitch. There's a whole video on how to properly place heel forks and adjust them, but in short, you want the pointed side toward the center. We're going to put one right in at 6 o'clock. So just push it up as high as you can and let it fall back down. I don't know if you can see, there's one right there. And then we're going to put another one right here, kind of just inside of where we're knitting, not where these needles are out of work. Okay, so there's the second one. And then one more on the other side. If you start to lose stitches, if they aren't knitting at the corner, that usually means it's time to adjust your heel forks. Remember to put your weight back. So now our yarn is at 9 o'clock with our halfway mark. We wrapped on one side, wrapped on the other side. Now we lift one needle. You just lift it straight up and out of work and crank back the other direction. Lift one needle at 3 o'clock. Now we wrap again. So we'll wrap the first needle at 9 o'clock. And then we're going to wrap the first out of work needle at 3 o'clock. You're now done with the setup steps, and it gets much simpler from here. We're just going to lift a needle each time and then crank back the other direction. So now, lift one on this side. You're always lifting the last needle that was knit. So it will always be the one with the yarn attached to it is the one that should be lifted. So this stitch didn't knit. You can see here that this is the working yarn, and it should have knit into this stitch, but it didn't. So again, to fix that, it's very easy. You just pull forward on the needle so you can insert your loom tool and lift it up and over the back of the needle so that you knit that stitch. That's a sign that we need to now adjust our heel forks. I'm going to go ahead and lift so I don't forget. You can always tell if you've lifted because the working yarn should be attached to the lifted needle. So if the working yarn is attached to a needle that's down, you have not yet lifted the needle. You do not have to remove the weight to lift your heel forks. You just move it forward and then push the heel forks straight up. And then on the side ones, push it up and kind of in, right? Because these needles are out of work, so it won't do us any good to have it over here. Push it in toward the center a little bit. Same thing on the other side. So now I've lifted the needle on that side. We're going back the other direction. Our goal is to reach these target marks down here that'll be our toe. So we're going to keep lifting until then.
Visit us at deanandbean.com and please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.